Hello, I'd like to talk to you about, I think, the best kept secret. Okay, here's the picture of what it is. Let me see if I did this right. We'll put it in here. Roby Lakatos strings. Okay, Roby Lakatos. He has these strings put together for him. He's a famous Hungarian gypsy player. If you haven't ever seen him play, he's wonderful. Look him up on YouTube. So he had these strings put together specifically for him by Tomasky Enfield. I'm going to play a little bit, and then I want to talk to you about strings. And let's hit a bluegrass lick. When I was real young, they had something called black label super sensitives. Now, they had black string around, thread around the end of the violin string. And they were really good. Okay, what happened? Everybody used them. Kenny Baker used them, everybody. Well, super sensitive decided to fix a good thing, and they replaced it with red label, which were awful. And nobody liked them. They kept trying to find old stock. I mean, people were digging around for 5 years, looking in string shops, music stores. Got any old super sensitives? But so what happened was in the early 70s, Kenny Baker, Bill Monroe's fiddle player, used to have lots of cassettes, homemade tapes of me and him playing. He discovered rope core, super flexible Tomastic Enfields. And so he started using these rope core strings. Everybody jumped on it. They were a composite steel string, not solid strand, but woven like little cables. And they switched to that. Everybody loved them. I want to say during that time period, I was playing all the time. I went and they also invented dominants in the early 70s that replaced gut, and they were nylon. Well, I took one of the nylon strings and put it on the G string, left the rest of them rope core. Tommy Cordell in Florida played my fiddle with them on, and he immediately switched to that. How wonderful it was. So we were using combinations of steel and nylon strings, and sometimes I'd even put a nylon D on. But most of the time, the way that setup was, it was just a G. And it seemed to work pretty good. But the A string was a cable. The A string was a woven cable-like string. It wasn't solid, which is different than these. Now, along comes helicore, and that was, later. And I jumped on them. There were things we liked. We didn't know about helicore heavies at the time. We had mediums, and they were just a little bit on the light side. So there was problems. There was problems with the string. And later on, the helicore heavies got discovered by the better fiddle players. But back to this time period, the inner thinking of the better fiddle players on strings, a lot of them were sticking with rope core in the circles of bluegrass that I knew and better players. The exception was Mark O'Connor. He was using Yagar, and so everybody thought, well, we got to try Yagar because he does. And I bought a set, and they were like thick Lincoln logs that were dead. They were awful. You know, I took them off. I tried them. I paid a lot of money for them. You tried them around on other fiddles. The prims were scratchy and wiry and added a thin, awful thing. Old-timey players were using them some. And some people would try it. Everybody would sit around, the better fiddle players like Baker and all, they scratch their head and say, why are they using them things? But, you know, using all, and the dominant strings were like noodles. There were too noodly, and none of that worked. We ended up with helicore heavies. Everybody's using them now, mostly, and I was too. And then I was trying to take the G string off and put a purlon string on again to get this balance of sound. The problem with the helicore heavies, they have designed them and tweaked them to try to make them sound more and more like a nylon classical string. They've lost something, and I think they're using a different kind of aluminum wrap on them. The last one I got was real scratchy on your fingers. It was a strange thing. And the A strings on helicore heavies are again like a steel cable of thousands of fine strands woven together. And as opposed to this set, which I'm going to explain what it is, it's different. Now listen to this. They took, on the helicore heavies, they have basically this aluminum winding and stuff, but it trying to soften it and thicken the sound and make it sound more classical. And what happened on this fiddle was they seemed to be dead. They became more and more dead. And me and my friends, Randy and different people, we would switch strings out and videotape them. So I ended up, after he bought a set of these strings, the Roby, Lakatos, you know, we were watching him play. He's out of this world. Watch him on YouTube. So we decided, so Randy sent off to Germany and got a set of them. And I took just the two bass strings and put it on this fiddle, which had helicore on. And it really sounded better. So I ordered a set. And then when I got the A and the E input on, I go, wow. Let me tell you what he did. What they did with these strings. Roby had Thomastic Enfield. The E string is different. It's made out of stainless steel. It's thinner, which is really sometimes awful. But with being out of stainless, it makes it thick and at the same time responsive. It's just wonderful. And then the A string, I hit on this back in the early 70s, but couldn't find replacements. It's a solid A wrapped with chrome wrapped A. And so its diameter is thinner, okay, than like a helicore heavy. But it's real solid because it's solid and not a cable. And the chrome makes a real solid, cool sound. It's good. And then you've got two nylon strings. But I don't know if they're solid. I don't think so. I think they're composite, where it's woven strands of nylon, which makes it less stretchy, okay? But they don't seem to be real stiff either. But the D's aluminum wound and the G is silver wound. So what you've got is two nylon, solid steel and solid steel. What does that do? This really is the closest sound I've heard to the old original wonderful black wound super sensitives of the 50s and 60s, but with the addition of the nylon on the bottom, which was what I did when I was young. We even, if we were doing solo acts or playing along with background stuff when I was young, we would tune the fiddles just a little bit low. It was a gypsy. I knew a great gypsy violin player that traveled all around the United States and played on street corners named Mike. And he would tune his fiddle slightly low, and we used to play together. But what I wanted to tell you is, I think this is the best kept secret I've had Like I said again, I've had Tonica, Everperazzi, that Del Arte. I've had Preludes and all these different strings, and they're all meh, but I really like these, and they work really good. I suggest it. Best kept secret. Thank you.